if I watch one more woman in her kitchen with an apron on with some lovely melodic music going on in the background while she's like kneading her sourdough, but I'm having to listen to a voiceover of her telling all of her 350,000 followers that we live in a police state, our democracy is gone, and it's time to rise up and take back your country. I'm like, ma'am, get it
Ma'am.
together, like, or just calm down for a second. Are you okay?
Welcome to Rivera and Reeves, the podcast where we break through the bias, report the news, and occasionally trip over our soapboxes while ranting about the headlines.
Every week, we tackle the biggest stories with sharp analysis, unfiltered honesty, and just enough sarcasm to keep it fun.
So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and join us as we wade through the spin because the media is trash and we have zero patience for their nonsense. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Rivera and Reeves. I'm Miss Sadie and I'm here with my friend Rachel. Say hello, Rachel.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you doing? Look, first of all, when a lot has happened since Thursday.
Yes.
And we also speculated that we could possibly not be here today due to loss of power. Thank the Lord. Both of us have power. We got the power.
Yes.
So we're here on Tuesday.
I didn't lose power at all. Did you lose it at all?
No, we didn't either.
No, you just got rain, right?
We just got rain. In Tennessee, who got hit really bad, unfortunately, it was Nashville. Basically just Nashville. Because Knoxville got a little bit of snow, but they're fine. We're okay. Memphis, I believe, was okay. But the center of Tennessee, Nashville got pretty hammered. I believe large portions of Nashville are still without power. Mississippi got hit really bad.
Yeah.
Texas got hit really bad. So I think there's like an estimated 800,000 people without power all along the South. So
yeah, that is no bueno because it is freezing here and we're under a pile of about a foot of snow and ice. And so if we don't get heat, that's it. It's the end.
We have a wood burning stove, so we're actually okay.
I mean, we have wood and we have a fireplace and we're always, but no.
Fireplaces don't heat the same as wood burning
Not
stoves.
the same.
Honestly.
They don't.
They just don't. Well,
but we're good for now.
Yeah. Thank goodness. And another thing that's happening today is Trump is reportedly, he's headed to Iowa today. I think he's going to be speaking 4:00 Eastern from Iowa. This is supposed to be to kick off his essentially the midterm campaign initiative, which is supposed to culminate in a midterm election convention. So, but with all the business, he's been quite busy abroad with foreign policy. And according to reports, he's going to be focusing here domestically, where he's going to be going to a different state every week.
That's
allegedly.
a lot. That's a lot. So we need to pray for his safety too. That's a whole lot of travel.
There's a lot of travel, obviously his age, obviously the environment right now, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
There's, a lot of things to keep in mind. But before we get into today's episode, if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button wherever you're listening, on your favorite podcast app, on Substack, or on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, this is a full 24 hours later because paying supporters will get our episode immediately along with video on our Substack as soon as I hit publish. All audio on our podcast apps have advertisements, but they are always free. If you want it ad-free, please consider becoming a paying supporter. There is a link in the show notes. And if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details of the news, the deep dives, and our personal thoughts, may I recommend that you check out our individual Substacks. Here are the headlines, and it's Miss Sadie. We're both on Substack. We give a lot of free content, and then if you want to support us a little bit more, we would also encourage that you become paying subscribers there. And if you want to join all three, shoot us a DM, and we will send you a discount code that you can use on each platform, right?
Right.
Okay, now I'm starting to get warm. I'm like sweater on sweater over here and getting activated with this conversation. I'm going to have to take off one of them. I'm getting hot. Omen had, my husband actually nicked my space heater that I usually keep here in my office to give to the chickens last night.
We had to hang 2 heat lamps. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode, but we knew that the storm was coming and it was going to be freezing. And so we purchased 2 heat lamps because our sheep had 2
Yeah, you
lambs
just had
last
they had
week.
babies.
Yes, and we have other ones that are pregnant, which I thought would already have given birth by now, but they didn't. So we wanted to set them up with heat, and then we wanted heat for like the birds and the we just have a lot of pets we wanted to keep heated. But I swear nothing scares me more than having like heat lamps and stuff like that in the barn. I just am so afraid
Oh, really?
we're gonna we know a priest whose house burnt down because
Yeah,
he
that would
put the heat
be
lamp in the garage for the chickens and then it set the whole house on fire. So I just went that first night, I kept like looking out the window when I get up in the middle of the night and just make sure the house wasn't in danger. But we're
Yeah,
good.
but your
good.
barn is separate from your house. So even
Yeah,
if something happened, it would have to jump over to your house.
correct. But still,
Yeah.
it's a huge barn. I'm like, please don't.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, we
But
have like a
anyways.
little tiny chicken coop, and
Mhm.
my husband also put out heat lamps over there, and it's actually funny because I look out there and it looks like the chickens are having
An
a rave.
orange glow. Yeah,
Yeah,
seriously.
in the backyard.
We used to
I'm like,
have
okay.
this is going we used to have hydroponics. You know what hydroponics is, right? With like
Yeah.
we would grow vegetables and herbs specifically. And then we also used to the first 4 or 5 years we were here, we grew all of our seedlings inside our house in like mini greenhouses, but the lights that we would keep on them during the evening time were like bright red and some
Yeah.
of them were yellow. And so basically it looked like we were, I don't know, cooking up drugs in our downstairs basement. Like if you drove by, it was just always all lit up in the middle of the night in funky colors because of all of our plants. Anyways,
That's funny.
so yep.
Well, what are we talking about today? Unfortunately, we're going to talk a little bit more about Minneapolis and the events that happened this weekend. Specifically when it comes to the shooting that happened on Saturday between Border Patrol agents and a 37-year-old man who's been identified as Alex Pretti. I believe he was an ICU nurse in Minnesota, in Minneapolis specifically. Now, what we're not going to be doing today is we're not getting into legalese, breakdown, or anything about whether or not the shooting was justified, because frankly, and I'm saying this honestly, it's not because I'm trying to dip, it's because I honestly have no clue. I find this situation to be very different from the Renee Good situation. Renee Good was in a vehicle. She hit the officer. The officer responded. I think we were dealing with a different situation there versus what happened with Pretti. And in addition, what we're going to be discussing more is the response by the administration and the aftermath that has happened. Because in my personal opinion, it was very much mishandled.
Botched. You could
Yes.
say it.
Yeah. Botched. Now, so on Saturday,
Was it
where I
Saturday
was
or
like,
was it Sunday? I feel like
it was Saturday.
it was Saturday. Jeez.
Yeah. Because I remember Sunday coming and I'm be like, I'm going to Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though like our church had canceled services, I'm like, I'm going to book, I'm going to fireplace, I'm going to Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
did I stick to that? Not necessarily. I still shared a little bit of
Well,
news.
how did that work out for you, Mercedes? Because I
But
know you.
Saturday was definitely, I was, sharing a whole bunch of what was going on. So a Border Patrol agent involved shooting in Minneapolis with, as I mentioned before, the man's name is Alex Pretti. It's 37 years old, and he died. He was killed in this interaction. DHS statement, agents were conducting a targeted operation against an illegal who was wanted for a violent assault. And then per DHS, Pretti approached, this is what they're saying, he approached with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, and agents attempted to disarm him, and he violently resisted. And then the Minneapolis police chief stated that Pretti was a lawful gun owner and had a permit to carry. Now, there are reports of body cam footage for a Border Patrol that is being examined. It has not yet been released. My assumption is that at some point it will be released.
Right.
Now, when the story broke, the initial clip that was shared was after the engagement happened between Pretti and Border Patrol, and it was taken from across the street, and it was happening on a sidewalk. And in this shot, like, they were already wrestling each other, and he was shot by a Border Patrol officer. In that video, you see another Border Patrol officer that has a jacket on, which at first it's not clear that he's Border Patrol until he turns and you see the insignia on his chest. He has come into this group, reached in, and comes out with what looks like a firearm. And then he leaves, and in that little window of time, you hear a shot, a pause, and then the other officers fire on Pretti. Multiple other angles have come out since, including the woman that was on the sidewalk filming from the other direction. So she's on the sidewalk filming towards the window from where we originally saw the clip. That is one. There's also one from a automobile. Looks like a dash cam that's close to the melee as it happens. And then there's one that eventually came out that was previous to all of it, where it appears that Pretti is directing traffic while Border Patrol are off to the side, according to DHS, preparing to do this targeted operation, which means people are arguing that that is a type of impeding the operation because you're about to have Border Patrol conduct an operation and you're directing automobiles to pass through the area, which could create a safety situation for the officers. In fact, he's waving them through and you can hear a woman say, "Go," because the people are reluctant to pass where the Border Patrol is.
I know that we're not majoring on this part of the story,
Yes.
but can I ask if anything has been released as to how Pretti and the other protesters knew about this operation, and so they
were part of a watch group.
They've just so is this?
Yeah.
Then okay, that's what I was wanting to know.
Yeah, they were part of a watch group, and we're going to get into
that
the whole
basically
watch
just
group.
follows ICE around to everywhere that they go. Okay, and does that directly then meet? He was part of the Signal chat group that we're going to talk about, right?
I'm not 100% sure if he was part of that Signal chat, but
there
definitely
are many of those.
Correct.
Okay.
And he was part of an organized effort to watch and surveil Border Patrol and ICE operations. Correct.
Can I also point out that it wasn't, because I know some people have been stating that it was an ICE officer that initially shot him, but that is incorrect.
No, it was Border Patrol.
Border Patrol. Were there any ICE officers in that altercation?
To my understanding, no. That was all
Border Patrol.
Border Patrol.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and in that, you see one of the officers approach Pretti, put their hand on his chest and push him back. Pretti is holding a camera or a phone,
like a telephone.
In his, like I think it was in his right hand, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And they get pushed out of frame. Then there's another video that shows, and this is I'm going to insert a little bit of opinion here. Okay. So the officer pushes Pretti, and a woman comes and interjects herself into the situation, basically telling the Border Patrol to leave him alone, I'm assuming. The officer pushes her, which then leads Pretti to, I think, come in and attempt to defend the woman. And that's where all shizness breaks out.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay. Yep.
So that's where we kind of get to where there's the tussling happens. The woman and Pretti are separated. Pretti gets hit with, and this escalated very quickly. Pretti gets hit with pepper spray, and officers are now wrestling him to the ground. So at this point, when everybody's on the ground, there's several debates happening. There is a debate on whether or not the officer who retrieved Pretti's concealed firearm said gun, which then triggered other officers to react and fire. Whether in the process of him removing that gun, maybe one of the officers got confused with whose hand is on what gun, called gun, again, triggering other officers to fire because you do hear someone call gun. Or the other speculation is, which this is one I find particularly interesting as a firearm person myself, is that the firearm has been identified as a SIG P320. The P320 has a misfire problem. Okay. There are multiple videos out there if you go looking for it that when the firearm is on safety and you handle the barrel, it will misfire. So there are also people who are speculating that when the officer went to retrieve the firearm and he pulled out, it misfired, which then triggered the other officers to now fire because they know there's a presence of a gun. Now, we have no idea, okay?
It's not great week for Sig Sauer. I'll tell you that.
No.
I asked my husband too. I was sitting there. I was like, "Hey, is that do you have that Sig?" He's like, "That's not the one I have." I was like, "Okay, good to know."
We are a Glock home in this.
Yeah.
So those are all. Now, there's obviously other. If you're from the left, people are saying they killed him on purpose. That they were trying to cover up the attempt to murder him or whatever. We have no clue. Okay.
No.
This is all clearly it needs to be investigated. And while this might be difficult for some people to understand, there is a concept of an imperfect self-defense. Imperfect self-defense meaning that the officer had or believed that their life was in danger. And in self-defense, they responded and it was mistaken. An example would be you're in a dark street, you perceive a threat and you think, I don't know, the cell phone is a gun. So that's the type of situation similar that we're dealing with. Now, there's a lot of conversation too on, well, was he really legally concealed carrying if he didn't have his ID because in Minnesota? Well, personally, I think that's kind of irrelevant. He might have been, but like I think in the priority list that is literally at the bottom, and if anything, it's more likely than not, and I'm sharing my opinion here, that these watch operations are advising people not to carry ID so they can't be, it makes it more difficult to arrest them or identify them, which is why he probably wasn't, if he didn't have his ID, wasn't carrying, which then escalates the situation if you really
Even
think
more.
about it, because
like eventually they're going to identify you. So why not just give them your ID?
Then, that is why they have to detain people, because if they can't identify
everybody's very
them,
mad about the detaining portion. It's like, well, then bring your ID or have your ID or offer your ID when asked for it. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, here is where we're going to get into the beef of this story. Okay.
Yeah.
And it is the response that happened afterwards. Now, I don't understand, because considering all of the footage that came out pretty quickly about this situation, the response specifically from Bovino, who is the commander at large for Border Patrol, he's the little guy with the high, tight cut, and Kristi Noem, with all of her extensions, did a press conference and assigned intent and completely misrepresented what we, with our own freaking eyeballs, saw on these videos, specifically what led up to the confrontation. So I'm going to play Bovino for everyone first.
At 9:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien, Jose Huerta Chuma. You can see this illegal alien on the screen to my left and right. That is Jose Huerta Chuma, whose criminal history includes domestic assault to intentionally inflict bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license. During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
So that's Bovino.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kristi Noem followed up with another press conference, which she partnered along with FEMA because it was right before the storm. And she reiterated basically the same sentiment. So here is Noem.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
I think it is, this was not thought out. It was not coordinated. And they didn't wait and give a measured response that would have been appropriate. This is the kind of stuff that Republicans notoriously give Democrats a hard time for, is grabbing a narrative and then everybody just kind of glomming onto that one narrative and the talking points. We see it happen all the time on Twitter, where someone will say something and then you'll see like 35 other Democrat
and they all
lawmakers
just like
saying the exact
repeat
same
it,
thing.
like,
and it's disingenuous, it's not sincere, and you can tell it's just narrative crafting. And to me, that almost felt like Bovino or whoever crafted kind of those talking points for him are so angry about what's going on, rightfully so. Minnesota is a powder keg, and it's disastrous what Governor Walz has manufactured there. But whoever put that talking point together for him, you can tell they're just done. They're like, this guy came and he was just going to massacre a whole bunch of law enforcement. That's a big statement. And you better have some hard and fast evidence to support something like that, or you're going to lose people on your side who initially were like for the ICE raids. They were for the deportations. But if we're just going to like invent ideas like that or narratives like that, that's dangerous.
Well, and I have a video here. I just want to be like, because as you hear them speak, it makes it sound as if Pretti approached them with a 9mm.
Yes.
Which is not what happened.
That's not consistent with the videos that we've watched.
Yeah.
No.
And I want to share the video. This is all before everything just breaks down. Okay. So hold on. Oh, of course, you're not going to cooperate. Come on.
Yeah, unroll your windows. No, you're just right inside. Let's go around.
You can see that he doesn't. If he had a firearm, they would have drawn on him immediately. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and you
of
can
course.
see in that video that it's just the officers approaching him and pushing him back, and what he's holding in his hand is a camera. And I think that is the biggest. Like, we could talk about who started what and who pushed where and whether or not he resisted arrest. And frankly, in my personal opinion, the woman that decided to inject herself between Pretti and, you got to love a freaking liberal white woman to make a situation worse.
Yeah.
But that was a complete misrepresentation of what actually happened. This whole mass what was it, maximum damage to massacre law enforcement? No,
Yeah.
it's the same problem that you had when Frey said immediately after Good that
Mhm.
the federal officers murdered her
Yeah.
and didn't care. Or it's like the same thing. And
I
I don't
know.
understand, as the government, like, who there's already a pretty serious doubt in government
Mhm.
officials. Like,
Yeah.
why would you just lie
Yeah.
and make us, I don't know, like, try and gaslight people into thinking like they didn't see what they saw
No,
and
I
create the
totally agree.
situation worse
Yep.
for you, as opposed to just saying, look, we're investigating it.
Yeah, I think that, like we always say, optics matter. And it's not going great right now for the administration and for ICE in general. And I'm saying that as someone who supports ICE, which I'm being told, and I know we're going to get to, I'm being
You're
told
a horrible,
on
horrible
social
human
media that I
being.
am literally vile for
You're the
supporting.
worst.
I am.
I can't work with you
But the
anymore.
optics are not great. And you would think that someone in the administration was picking up on that vibe and was basically telling everybody involved in these and just pounding it into their head all the time. Keep this tight and right. You do everything by the book. You don't say anything out of turn. You wait till things like arrive at their natural conclusion. We need to get all of the footage. We're not going to be emotional about this as spokespeople for the administration or for ICE, but this just sounded like, I don't know if it's that they were too fired up about everything that's happening, or if it was they wanted to get ahead of what was happening and label this as more of like a terrorist type of situation. I can't make heads or tails of
I
it.
think if that's the case, that is incompetence. Frankly,
I
that's just
totally
incompetence.
agree. Yes. Yes.
Because then what are you going to do when it's clearly not the case?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Which, to me, either one or two things happened. Either they looked at the footage and decided this is the narrative we're going to go with, or they spoke without seeing the footage
Both
and
bad.
just
Both
filled
not
in
great.
the blanks and
Yeah.
assumed things because of the way things are. Both of them are
not great.
bad.
Yeah. And don't
Like this-
hear what we're not saying. Mercedes and I both, I mean, I'm not going to speak for you, but I am, that we both
Okay,
support
let's see. I'll let you know.
ICE. Well, we support ICE operations broadly and what is being done to make up for and solve the problem that the prior administration got us into.
Absolutely.
We support that. And we also do not support these protesters unlawfully obstructing these ICE operations. It is a bad idea. Do not do it. It is illegal. So don't hear us saying administration bad, this protester good. That's not what we're saying. We're simply looking now at what the aftermath is, both from the administration and what we're going to soon be talking about, the absolute dumpster fire that is social media, but not just social media. It's happening, I'm hearing, in like personal corners of the world. People's at Bible studies are now, it's like 2020 all over again.
Well, and then I think the other issue here too is like, to add on to what you just said, the operations, literal operations that are happening on the ground with these activists to impede and to obstruct and to overstimulate the officers and create a heightened sense of like panic with all of the whistles and the intrusion and the cameras. Like, that is, in my opinion, a much more bigger contributor to what has happened in Minneapolis recently versus what's going on with the Border Patrol officers. If the local government would cooperate, which Walz is trying to say that when someone's illegal, that corrections will hand them over to be deported.
But they're not. That's the whole point.
No, well, the issue is that there's two things going on. So you have prisons where people have already been convicted, they're serving time, and they hand them over after they've served their time, which, first of all, as a taxpayer, I'd be really ticked off if we can just like deport them and instead we're spending money for them to be in prison.
More of our money. Yeah, exactly.
Correct. So that is number one, and that is what Walz is talking about. The issue is when we're talking about jails and they charge someone, they have no cash bail, They don't notify deportation, like immigration enforcement. They don't cooperate. They don't hold them, and then they release them back into the street. That is the issue, the major issue here. And there's a significant number, a much larger number of those individuals than there are of the individuals that are currently sitting in prison that have already gone through their trial process. And I think, again, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they have to sit there and serve, 10 years and suck up 10 years of taxpayer money when you can just deport them. Like, what are we doing right now?
Yes.
And they're trying to make the argument that the reason that is happening is because of due process, and we can't just deport them if they haven't really been convicted of a crime. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, John. Yes, you can.
Yep. This is a problem fueled by horrible governance. It really is. And by the messaging that's being sent to these protesters. Keep it up, keep obstructing. ICE is a bunch of vigilante law enforcement and we live in a police state now, and we need you on the ground obstructing. I'm telling you, when I'm watching these videos, the honking of the horns and the whistles themselves,
it drives me nuts.
Mute. It does. Can you imagine working in that environment all day, every single day? And protesters and these anti-ICE folks who are apparently like half the country, I'm learning that half of the country hates you and I for supporting law
I've been
enforcement.
hated for well over a decade
years. Yeah. But they are messaging that it is essential for citizens to get in the face of and obstruct law enforcement. Think about that. That is a very, that's not just holding powerful people and holding leaders to account. This is saying they're not accountable to anybody and they're rogue. And now you, American, need to stand up and protect your country from law enforcement. And that's a dangerous road to go down.
But Walz came out afterwards and had this peach of a comparison.
I can't wait to hear.
We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota.
Oh my gosh.
And there's one person who can end this now.
No.
That creates a permission structure.
That's right.
I mean, you're literally fighting Nazis. Literally Nazis. Never mind that there's federal legislation out there that needs to be enforced that Democrats, when they were in power, did not re-legislate, or reform. They left it as it is. And now you're Nazis. You are a Nazi for even because I'm trying to keep my cool.
Yep. Okay, take a deep breath. I've had to do it a couple times.
Enforcing immigration. Illegal immigration. I cannot. Okay. So
I did a whole post about it yesterday on Instagram, just telling people to stop comparing ICE to the Gestapo. Stop saying that if you are not hiding illegal immigrants in your house, then you wouldn't have hidden Anne Frank and her family. Miss me on that. How can you tell if someone hasn't read a history book? That's how. If they're posting that this is like World War II. Stop it, please.
Making their arguments via emotion. It's like the comparison of Pretti to Kyle Rittenhouse, which is a completely ridiculous comparison.
It is, of
Kyle
course.
Rittenhouse was in the middle of a riot. He was not engaging with law enforcement. And the moment that everything happened, he dropped his firearm, put his arms up, and attempted to surrender himself to law enforcement.
Right.
Versus Pretti was
totally different.
This is a completely different situation.
Yes.
And
but it is a bunch of emotional manipulation. People are so heightened right now on both sides of the aisle, but they are allowing this fracture in our country to capture them, mind, body, and soul. And I am watching, and of course I'm a conservative. So if I don't ever want to be immune to calling this stuff out on my side. I think that there is a lot of discourse on the right that I don't care for either at times. However, the unhinged nature of this discourse, the emotional manipulation I am seeing from left-leaning and even some Christian conservative accounts is mind-boggling. And it is, I keep using the word unhinged, but I don't see another word to use. People are not thinking clearly. They're, like we said, making comparisons to other events in history, and they're wholesale cutting people out of their life because they support law enforcement or because they voted for Trump. It is 2020 on repeat, but I think it's worse now. I actually, I believe it's exponentially, like, it's compounding interest. People are
Yeah.
still recovering from the 2020 fractures, and then this comes along,
Well,
and it's been
also, I feel
growing.
like, I mean, there was like this, like a little lull of like
Mhm.
defeatism. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
And now it's just like coming back with this vengeance. Like, if
Vitriol.
you
It's
think,
vitriol.
yes, and if you think that this, I demand that you agree with me and that you
Mhm.
side with me. And if you don't, you're a bad person and you should be exposed for that. And you shouldn't have a way to make a living, and that they won't go
Mhm.
after your sponsors, and that they won't go after your job, or where you like where your children go to school or anything. Like, I
Mhm.
have news for you that they're more than happy to repeat that
Yeah.
entire situation all over again, like we dealt with in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think and there's the propaganda side of it where you're watching people use the same verbiage that they used during 2020, like silence is complicity, and you're going to be on the wrong side of history, and
Yeah.
you need to be loving your neighbor, all of that. But then there's also, I feel like, a much more pronounced, pernicious, angry, hateful through line and undertone to a lot of these posts I'm seeing on Facebook, Twitter, on Instagram, where it's not even giving people a chance to dialogue. It is, I saw one thing this morning, it said, if you support ICE, I no longer want you in my life. I want you to unfollow. You cannot make, you are not a humane human. You treat people with disrespect. I want nothing to do with you. And this is from someone who I feel like was kind of chill before. It's like something has snapped. But I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens of accounts. I sent you some
Well,
yesterday.
and it's
It's
not just that. It's not even like the accounts that are posting and saying, this is how I feel. I have never
yeah,
spoken about this subject, but I'm going to speak about this now. I'm going to use my
right.
platform. And if you
Mhm.
don't agree with me, you're the worst. But then there's also the individuals who are deciding not to.
Mhm.
And like, for example, if you go into TikTok and like,
Yeah.
let's say you go into a benign account that's like about comedy or
Mhm.
children or sourdough or kombucha
Yeah.
making or something along those lines. If you go into the comments, many times, I'm not gonna say
Yes,
all of
they're
them, but many of
demanding.
them are getting
Mhm.
flooded with comments
Yep.
demanding that they speak up and use their platform. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Look, if you're gonna tell me what to do, I will
I'm not gonna do
guarantee
that
you I
thing.
will not gonna do I'm not
No,
gonna
but
do it."
it is kind of, it's kind of, it's an
I mean, it's a
interesting,
struggle session.
it is, it's an interesting social experiment we're watching play out. When I log on to Instagram, which is my job, so I'm on there and I'm delivering content to people who pay me, to people and people who don't. And they have an expectation that I'm going to give them the news, but I'm watching people write these like gushing 10 slides worth of information about why they're sorry that they didn't say anything, why their platform isn't the place for that, but now they realize it is because they're going to do the work. And are you hearing 2020 echoing?
Yes.
I mean, it's
Like,
all the
it's
same thing. And I feel
I
bad
feel
for
like I'm
these,
a
I
I
feel
feel
bad
like
for
a
these
deja
women. I
vu.
want to say to them, you know, you don't have to do what the mob's demanding of you, right? You don't need to.
Well, and
Um,
it's not just that. It's also that a lot of the stuff that you hear in those posts, it's like they
mhm.
arrested a 5-year-old. That is
Yeah.
not
No,
like,
not
it's
true.
this, you can tell that they have also internalized incorrect
All of the
information or
messaging. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
fallen for narrative and messaging and not really taken the time to be like, wait a minute. That
Yeah.
sounds literally crazy that they
Yeah.
arrested or detained a 5-year-old. Like, what is the
Yeah.
story here?
Right.
And they don't know. They're just repeating things that gave them an emotional nervous system like attack, so to speak, and now they're just succumbing to it.
Yes.
I'm very familiar with this because I was a food blogger for 10 years before 2020. I remember how everything was going down when you had a platform that was benign and not political pre-2020. And after that, which is why I ended up doing this, because I was like, you want me to share my opinion? I'll share my opinion.
Yeah. Get ready.
Hold on.
Yeah. And then you have this other, it is like a big struggle session, and everybody's trying to find out like which lane they're going to be in. Are you going to be in the lane kind of like where we are, where we're reporting kind of what's happening, but also it's infused with our own personal bias, and we make that very clear. And then there's another lane where it's people who are like, I'm afraid, so I'm just going to be like, I don't want to say anything. And then there's the other lane of the people who are like, I have opinions, but I feel like my energy is better served somewhere else. And then there's the lane of the people who acted like they were completely bipartisan and not biased, and now all of a sudden they're like, I'm done with that now. Now they're fully on the left, or they're fully not. I don't see a whole lot going towards the right. I have a lot of people that I followed where all of a sudden I was like, oh, I didn't know you were. Wow, okay, the mask is off now, and people are trying to kind of figure out where they belong. And I'm hearing from
which is
people,
ridiculous. Like, you don't have to.
It is.
Like,
and it's also like people are saying this is a social media issue. There's a lot of people who are like, let's not talk about it because social media is not the place. No, I'm sorry. That doesn't work anymore. And it's not just social media. I'm hearing from people in my DMs who are like, I went to Bible study this week and it got real political real fast. Or I went to a girls' night and realized that 3 of my friends don't like me anymore and don't want to be my friend anymore because I am a conservative. I'm like, did you not talk about politics before? But all I'm saying is this is not unique.
Like porn.
Yeah. It is unique what's happening on social media, but this inflamed rhetoric causing people to kind of go crazy is not just happening on social media. It's happening in people's real lives. And we saw that play out with COVID, and how families literally broke apart because this person didn't want to get together with this unvaccinated person, or this person demanded masks.
I just want to point something out. We didn't have this when the Republicans were the underdog or were not in power. You don't have Republicans going out there demanding fealty or demanding that you agree with them. And in this particular situation, there has been a lot of prominent Republican or conservative commentators and influencers that have been like, no, this is not it. With Noem and Bovino and their messaging. And even like when Kash Patel came out, and they're all saying like it's illegal to conceal carry during a protest. And everybody's like,
no,
what are you talking about?
That's it. And I do realize that, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they are very clearly anti-ICE. They are.
Yes, you try. Right. You make me listen to that sometimes.
But she was very upset. And she was like, I just can't. If you're a conservative, can you just realize one thing for me? Can you just admit one thing for me? Can we just come together on this one thing? Can you make this one concession just once, please? And I felt like calling her and being like, all right, I can, and I do make concessions a lot. I always want to challenge my preconceived notions. But I guarantee if I said to her, okay, can you make the concession that maybe he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing? That is a bridge too far for some of these people that are demanding us speak out, stand up, say this is wrong, or else. It's like a litmus test, but they're not willing to take it for themselves. And watching it play out on social media it's
been wild.
It's been wild. It is. It's the Wild West right now on social media, and people are losing their minds. But again, it's not just on social media. I watched a video of a nurse. It was on Libs of TikTok, and she basically was just
where she's like how to
poison a patient if they're MAGA. You're seeing this kind of
which
mental
is
break.
The issue too that happened after Charlie Kirk too.
Yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it was like a lot of people are like, oh, well, Republicans do the same thing, demanding. I was like, no. The issue is that after Charlie Kirk died, you had a bunch of people come out of the woodwork, either
Mhm.
saying that he deserved to
Like,
die
happy
or that
about
if you
it.
support him,
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
something should happen to you too. Like
Yep.
justifying the murder of someone who opposes you in your views. And there is
Uh-huh.
nothing currently right now that is more concerning to me than this rise of radicalism from
Uh-huh.
progressive white women who a lot of them not married or have like some kind of weak husband in their home that are like they won't commit the violence
No, but
themselves,
they're
but they're more
fomenting
than,
it. They're fomenting it.
and they're
And
more
they're
than willing and accepting of it
yeah,
happening.
and they're hinting
So,
about it. They're like, "I'm not gonna say it, but I'm not gonna not say
but
it." That kind of deal. And, it's dangerous, it's frightening, and, once COVID happened, people were like, "Never again." I'm like, "Well, we're falling for it." I see some well-meaning Christian ladies that are getting duped.
well, and
Um
so Allie Beth Stuckey, she made a comment that I thought was really interesting. And she's like, look, these influencers, they want you stupid. They
Yeah.
want you to be uninformed. They want you
Mhm.
emotional.
Yeah.
And they want this because it makes the situation, it makes it easier for them to side with you. If
Yeah.
they just like you don't even have
Well,
to agree with me. Just
and
inform yourself.
manipulate. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. They
It's like,
I would love to have a conversation. I'm always open to and want to have conversations with people, that are in good faith. If you don't try to manipulate me, because 'cause I'm not gonna try and manipulate you. I'll be the first one to say I don't have a great argument for that. Uh, or I'm not sure, I don't know the facts, but I have people come at me with the most emotional responses.
I can't stand that.
And it is really hard to speak to people when it's like that. But they're female. They're always female.
Yeah.
Um, and they lead with it as opposed to
Mhm.
leading with facts. And one other thing I think is getting lost is people who are so concerned on the left and calling us inhumane for supporting law enforcement, um, and are always talking about how humans are being, killed in the street and they're being
Yeah, but
kidnapped
they
and all
never
this stuff.
talk about all
Well,
the sex trafficking that happened,
right, of
all of
course.
like they never, it
Of course
only
that.
bothers them now because it's
And
in their face.
I totally agree. That
Talk about
is
privilege.
goes
Oh,
without
now
saying,
that
but
it's in your face or in your
yeah.
neighborhood, now you're upset.
But what I was going to say was I think what's
Jeez.
missed in this is that there are hundreds of thousands of law enforcement agents, border patrol, ICE agents. Where's the humanity for them? Because I'm seeing a lot of these
Well,
liberals online
Rachel,
wear T-shirts that say "F ICE" or "ICE are terrorists. They're our
that's
national
that's
terrorists."
why if you've created an entire permission structure that
Right?
says that they're terrorists, that they're Nazis, that
They're not humans.
they're not they it dehumanizes them and
Yeah.
it justifies what we're dealing with
Oh,
right now.
totally. I
And
just
then it
wonder
also
about.
makes any defense of them like by proxy you therefore are
Oh, I know.
inhuman.
I have been told this today twice. Opened up a lovely email this morning telling me as much. So that was
It's
fun.
yeah.
But it's
But
inconsistent thinking. It's not critical thinking. It's emotionally manipulated thinking. And if I watch one more woman in her kitchen with an apron on with some lovely melodic music going on in the background while she's like kneading her sourdough, but I'm having to listen to a voiceover of her telling all of her 350,000 followers that we live in a police state, our democracy is gone, and it's time to rise up and take back your country. I'm like, Ma'am, get it
ma'am,
together. Like, or just calm down for a second. Are you okay? Because honestly, that's some real unhinged thinking. I really
yeah.
believe that. You can have problems with ICE operations and some of the use of force that we've been seeing. We can talk about those things without absolutely losing our minds and talking about how it's the fall of the American empire. We're just watching it happen on our phones.
Well, and what's interesting to me is that now, if we were actually dealing with an authoritarian police state and this
Right.
was the end of America,
Mhm.
we would not have the course correction or the shakeup that is currently happening right now in the administration in
Right.
response to this latest shooting. Okay.
Yeah.
They would just keep going.
Yeah, they course
But
corrected on this real fast. They
real
saw what
fast.
happened.
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, there was a letter that went out by Pam Bondi. You know, she loves her strongly worded letters.
She makes those
And
strong words.
And in addition to that, Trump had put out a post too. And basically in these posts, they're demanding that that Minnesota cooperate, hand over illegals, also allow for the investigation of fraud, which is one of the things that Bondi mentioned. She also mentioned voter rolls, which then turned into a conspiracy theory that Trump was trying to steal the election, when maybe, I don't know, we're just looking for some voter fraud situations, considering there's so much fraud. And then Trump also called for the end to sanctuary cities and for legislation to end sanctuary cities, which I'm like, homie, why weren't we doing that a year ago? Okay.
Yeah,
That should have
having that
been like
question a lot lately.
priority
Like,
number
why
one.
haven't we called the Insurrection Act in
I
Minneapolis
honestly
a
am
long time ago?
surprised. And that's just another example of how this man is not an authoritarian.
Yeah,
Because
because
if
that
he
would have been my
wanted
first
to-
thought. Like, if he wanted to, he would have just smacked that down real fast, like a couple weeks ago. I don't understand why he didn't. I would. So I guess I'm an authoritarian.
You are
because
a little authoritarian-y.
ask my kids; they would probably agree with you. This should have been done a long time ago because it is a literal insurrection, but by the citizens of Minneapolis, and it was all pushed by their betters, by the elected officials.
By
It's insane.
yes, absolutely. So what is going on right now since all of this went down? Okay. It was announced yesterday that Tom Homan, basically it looks like a restructuring. So he woke up and he was like, I'm sending Tom Homan to Minnesota tonight. He has not been involved in the area, but he knows and likes many of the people there. Tom is tough but fair and will report directly to me. Now, he is the border czar. He actually got a medal from Obama for being so bomb at deporting people. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as a czar, he doesn't necessarily have a department. He doesn't have a budget, which is why he's reporting directly to Trump, which honestly, I think that's a good thing right now. Now, there is a lot of internal drama that is happening now. Let me see if I can get
Although
through
I
all
did
of
just see on Twitter, right as we were starting, that Trump was asked, I don't know where he's headed. Oh, he's headed to,
he's headed to
Ohio or
Iowa.
So he was asked, are you nixing Kristi Noem? And he was like, no, I'm not. So
Look, I know I complained a lot about how Biden would not fire anybody. And like I'll give the
you're
president
starting to
a
get
little-
there.
I'm starting to
give him
there.
a little
Like,
bit more
dude,
time.
I really think that at some point you just need to fire someone. But I think in the last administration, he got so many headlines after he would fire someone, and it would be used to reflect of how he was like unable to manage people correctly, that I think he is reluctant to do it. But I think at some point you're like, dude,
we need to do something.
I mean, and look, or shelve her at least. And instead of her being so focused on immigration, like she can go focus on FEMA. You understand what I'm saying? Like there's other things that the Department of Homeland Security can focus on that doesn't have to be immigration. And we can take her out of, like, if you just want to, she's supposed to testify, by the way. She finally agreed that she's going to testify
Friday,
on
isn't
the
it?
Hill. I think so. So that should be interesting. Okay. But let me give you a rundown of basically what has happened since. So he announced on True Social that Homan was going to be headed to Minnesota. And then he also said that he spoke to Walz and that they had a good discussion and were on a similar wavelength. Then he also said, which I found this one particularly interesting. So he goes and he says, I also talked to Frey, right?
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, cool. So you talk to Frey, which is kind of weird, but cool. I mean, necessary. And then Frey replied with, I spoke with the president today and appreciated the conversation. I expressed how much Minneapolis has benefited from our immigrant communities and was clear that my main ask is that Operation Metro Surge needs to end. The president agreed the present situation cannot continue. Then the thread continues where he says some federal agents will begin leaving. Okay. And he goes, Minneapolis will continue to cooperate with state and federal law enforcement on real criminal investigations, but we will not participate in unconstitutional arrest of our neighbors or enforce federal immigration law. Violent criminals should be held accountable based on the crimes they commit, not based on where they're from. I will continue working with all levels of government to keep our community safe, keep crime down, and put Minneapolis residents first. And then it says, I plan to meet
That's not
with,
working for you.
yeah, with Homan tomorrow, which is today, to further discuss this. And the reports are that they have already met since this was posted.
So he basically just said we will not be cooperating with federal.
Yes.
Like I just spoke with the president, who is, the executive.
And he's kind of like, I'm not going to do what he's asking.
I'm not going to do it. So thanks anyways. Bye.
Now, there's
This guy's
also
a
been
piece of
additional
work.
reports that happened around the same time that Bovino is out.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit. So Nick Sorter was the first one to report it. He said Bovino was out and had been demoted and was no longer commander at large and was returning to his post out in California. The Atlantic also reported this and then also mentioned that he had been locked out of his social media accounts, which tracks because he's been really quiet.
Yeah.
But McLaughlin, which is the DHS spokeswoman or deputy, she says that he has not been formally relieved of his duties, but she's not acknowledging that he is no longer commander at large. So there's some tiptoeing around and parsing of the words. Now, this is what's very interesting. So there's reports that yesterday in the Oval Office in the morning, Homan was there meeting with the president, right?
Yeah.
Then the New York Times reported that Noem asked for a meeting with the president, and Noem Lewandowski, which is like her sidekick. Also, there's rumors about her and Lewandowski, by the way.
Wait, hold on. Is she married? Is Kristi Noem married? But not
I believe
to
so,
Lewandowski.
but not to Lewandowski. And there's rumors that
Too much. I can't deal with it. No, I can't deal with that right now. One chaos at a time. One crisis at a time.
If anybody's watching, I'm winking, okay? That's the rumor,
I
okay?
can't deal with it. Don't want to know.
So, but anyways, present in the Oval Office was Noem Lewandowski, Caroline Levitt, Walz, Susie Walz, and then, of course, obviously the president. And that they had a meeting that lasted 2 hours. Interestingly, Stephen Miller was not in the meeting, reportedly.
Interesting. That is interesting. He would always be there.
Yeah, very interesting. I don't know what that means. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. And also, granted, this is the Atlantic and the New York Times. However, this has not been like aggressively refuted. So it's, I think, worth going,
I mean, Stephen Miller could have been like at another meeting or something. Busy. Yeah.
I don't know. So. Maybe Katie wasn't feeling well, like, because, she's pregnant. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? It could be something benign. It could also be very interesting. Now, also, background, back in October, as far back as October, there were reports of friction happening between Noem and Homan. There's also reports that Noem and Homan haven't spoken with each other in months. And that Noem decided she's the one that elevated Border Patrol and wanted this like all out aggressive in the streets operation versus Homan wanted stuff that was more targeted, more ICE focused, which is who's usually in country versus Border Patrol is usually at the border.
Right.
And that she muscled him out along with Lewandowski and the Washington Examiner, so this is not some left-wing progressive. Okay, so the Washington Examiner reported yesterday that Noem and Lewandowski allegedly used underhanded tactics to push Custom and Border Patrol Commissioner Rodney Scott out. Now, Rodney Scott would have been Bovino's boss, essentially.
Oh.
Yes. So that was all happening.
So it's dysfunction behind the scenes.
Yes. Reportedly, there's, and I think it's also very interesting because the moment that Trump was like, look, I'm going to send Homan, literally minutes later, Noem was like, "This is great. Homan's a great guy. We work really
Yeah.
well together." And then also at the same time, it's being reported that she is requesting meetings with the president, not that the president necessarily wants to meet with her. And if you're doing this after Homan, after this is all been, like, to me, it sounds like a CYA trying to defend your position in your job kind of
Yeah.
situation. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
But I'm speculating.
It just doesn't, it feels dysfunction-y to me.
No. Yeah, it's not good. Now, I will
No.
say this. I think it is good, considering that the president is such a fascist,
Mm-hmm.
that he is course correcting and
Yep.
going to listen to people and is concerned about the escalating situation in Minneapolis, which, by the way, only is happening in Minneapolis and Minnesota, and
Yeah.
not an example like Texas or Louisiana or Tennessee, for that matter,
Which
which
actually
had
have
significant
more ICE. Yeah.
correct.
More
They've had
operations
more
happening.
deportations and more officers present,
Yep.
but the whole drama is in Minnesota and Minneapolis. And the reason is because of what has been exposed about these coordinated signal chats that are happening in the city. So anyone who follows and spends a ridiculous amount of time online, like Rachel and I do, are aware that Cam Higbee, who is an independent journalist, infiltrated a signal chat. And if you have any time to go and look into this story, it is wild.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. It's crazy.
They have, which is believed that Pretti was part of one of these chats. And in addition to that, there are reports that local government officials have been participating in coordinating and adminning these chats. These signal
Specifically,
chats.
that one gal that wore
Flanagan.
that one shirt, Flanagan with the knife on it that said like
trans
protect
rights
trans
or
kids.
some, and it had like daggers on
and
it.
it had a knife. Yeah, she was said
Now,
to have been in these signal chats. too.
This has not been independently confirmed. However, there is speculation that because of the names that were used and timing of behavior, that Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan was under the handle Flan or Flan Southside, and she was part of the dispatch admin, as in she is the one that is dispatching people to impede and to follow ICE. There's also Anita Smithson, who is the Minnesota state candidate, and Amanda Kohler, who reportedly is a former Walz campaign strategist. So the reports are Higbee shared a screenshot where the chat said Flan has been exposed, where like people are having conversations that Flan has been exposed, and she has not come out to refute this at all.
Sounds like someone got caught.
Yes. And this is crazy. So they have these operations they're all on signal chats. And then Higbee, for example, shared a video where he was listening in on it, and you can hear the people tracking him because they have mistaken him as ICE and they're following him around. You see they log people's license plates. They have a database. They send pictures to each other. And then when ICE is identified, they deploy people to the location.
It's nuts. I want to say those kinds of things to these people who are so concerned about overreach and authoritarianism and vigilantism and just general violence, and say, are you okay with this? Talk about this as much as you talk about how horrible
they think they're justified. They're like, we're not doing anything wrong. We have a right to, to watch them or surveil them or whatever.
Yep.
But at what point does it become coordinated effort to impede or to obstruct?
It already is. It sounds like.
I mean, but that's my question. It's like, is organizing itself illegal? I don't know. It's the impediment that's illegal, which obviously, like, you're using one to do the other. My question is, like, when are we going to hear about? I'm sure this is already being investigated. You know what I mean?
Cash Patel said it was by the FBI. He went on
Okay.
Benny Johnson yesterday and said it was going to be investigated.
Because,
It needs to
and
be.
that's the other reason. The other thing is that has escalated. It's like on Sunday and Monday, there has been where these people report that allegedly ICE officers or Border Patrol are staying in hotels, and then they're harassing the hotels and they're
Yeah.
breaking into them and vandalizing them.
Have
And that's
there been
happened now.
arrests for that?
So, okay, so there's two different situations, and I looked into this, and this is what I
That's what I wanna
gathered.
know.
I
Mhm.
might be, you might be able to some of this might get corrected. So the two situations are, for example, on Sunday, it was believed that there were ICE officers at a home 2 suites in Minneapolis. On Monday, it was believed that Bovino was staying at a Spring Hill Suites in Maple Grove, I think is the area. And though that is relevant because on Sunday night, I mean, there's video. For example, this is a video of a federal prison officer that has been deployed to provide protection because they needed. So you're like, why is there a federal prison guard or officer there? And it's because they don't have the assistance of the local PD. And let's listen to him.
Is everyone pressed?
We're all members of the press. We're all press here. Okay. This officer appears to be bleeding from the mouth. Oh my God. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Says he's all right. He's all right.
Where's the local PD? That's my question for the press.
Okay. This officer.
Where is the local PD?
What's your message to the local PD, sir?
No.
Okay.
Well, the mayor.
Very chaotic.
Sir, while you're giving messages, what would your message to the protesters that want you out be?
An impromptu press conference with the
As long as you're giving
No
comment,
comment.
do you have any comment
Please
to the
get
people that want
back
you
up.
out?
Back up. Please give me some room.
All right, so you see that the officer is there in the vestibule by himself. He's injured. He's asking, where is PD?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the situation in Minneapolis. PD was deployed, but they were only put out on the perimeter to protect from further, what was the term I saw, which I thought was really interesting. It was like to, where's local PD? It was something, for property damage containment. So in other words, they were just on the outside. So
They were
the protesters wouldn't
too afraid
spread.
to come. Okay, so they were literally just containing. They weren't aiding or helping break up any of the illegal protesting or confrontations with
Now, they were
ICE.
putting out both, and they were saying it was an illegal gathering and everything like that, but they're not like moving in.
They're not doing
and
anything.
dispersing them.
They're not doing
Now,
anything.
Correct. Now there's a debate of like, oh, well, the feds came in and they escalated the situation and they didn't communicate with us. But then you also see this officer and he's like, where are the police? And if he's not there defending the situation, then those protesters, you could argue, would be able to break in to the hotel and do what? I don't know.
Yep.
Now, the situation was different though in last night. Because that was, what did I call it? It was something Grove. I forgot the name of the town. But the point being is that it wasn't Minneapolis. So there, the local PD was deployed and they did make arrests, which I have a clip here. You can see a little bit of that. So you see here, they're coming in, they're arresting people. They tell them to disperse. If they don't disperse, they're going to get arrested.
I know you're getting some good shots.
But this situation is being handled differently because it's not Minneapolis. And
Right.
that was like, for a minute, I was like trying to figure out what was going on. Like,
Yeah.
why are we having this this different response
This about
going on?
face.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Well, because
curious.
initially I was like, I thought it was like, oh, okay, well, Walz now or Frey, they're actually no,
no,
it
no.
wasn't Minneapolis.
Isn't that cute how we thought that? That's so cute that we were like, wow, good job, Tim Walz, finally doing something. It's like, no, wait, no, it wasn't him.
No.
I do want to talk. I just can't believe that all of the Minneapolis PD is on board with the direction of
I don't know.
Tim Walz and Frey. I have to believe there are some law enforcement there that are going, I'm not liking the direction this is going in, and I don't want to obstruct by not, complying and cooperating with federal law enforcement if it comes to that. Like, I would be very curious. If you're out there, I'd love to talk with you.
I think it's interesting because I mean, if you're aware, the other problem that we have in Minnesota and Minneapolis is that, especially Minneapolis and especially in the metro areas, is very progressive. And the
Uh-huh.
people who are governing, who are policing, who are in their judicial system are
Uh-huh.
of that community, which is why it becomes a challenge, and where you even have like judges that are even willing to listen to arguments of why the federal authorities should be essentially ejected from Minnesota or from Minneapolis, because
Mhm.
there's a level of activism within their own judicial branch because everybody's within that community.
Yeah.
So I don't know necessarily if the police would be the same, but if I were to go by the Minneapolis police chief,
Yeah.
there is a segment of them that definitely are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not giving me the warm fuzzies. That's not, I don't know.
I'm just saying. So we don't know exactly where this is going to land. So now there's clearly the administration is attempting to do a shift.
Uh-huh.
I don't know because first of all, and we talked about this in the back channels, I don't want them to stop their operations. And I don't want them to only focus on criminal illegals. I am totally for, if you're here illegally, you get deported. You got to go, because there is still a byproduct of effect when it comes to the economy, when it comes to programs, when it comes to all sorts of situations of having too many illegal people here. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't have an issue here. And then at the same time, with the current situation, like, they can't leave Minneapolis. They can't leave Minnesota, because that will then trigger people in Chicago or Seattle or Washington or whatever to be like,
it would have a big chilling effect on the whole point of why Trump was a huge campaign promise that he has been fulfilling. There is a large segment of our country that voted for this. They voted for law enforcement. They voted for mass deportations, because, like we talked about, the mess that Biden got us into. And it is interesting to me that some of them now are coming out and going, well, never mind. I'm wondering, what did you think it was going to look like? It's deporting hundreds of thousands of people who are here illegally, many of them dangerous, was not going to be easy, and it wasn't going to be perfect. It wasn't going to be able to be. That doesn't mean we shouldn't hold people to account for their actions, but I'm not exactly sure most of them just don't. Progressives just are fine with illegal immigrants being here because they think it's a misdemeanor. And I'm talking about conservatives and Christians, who are all of a sudden going, oh, well, I wanted it, but not this way. And assuming that, there's just large-scale murder in the streets, which is the messaging you're getting from Democrats, saying that ICE is just walking around shooting people all the time, which obviously any thinking person knows that that's incorrect. But I think some people, again, emotionally are, they get queasy when they have to think about the realities of what letting hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants into the country is going to look like when you have to solve that problem.
Well, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Like, Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. If you just pull out, then that gives permission for for them to act out, because then they'll get what they want. You can't give amnesty either, because then that justifies these individuals being here illegally to begin with. And we already did that back in Reagan.
We did that. Thanks, Reagan.
I'm not doing
I'm not
that
here
again.
for that. No.
At all. Now, obviously, you have to be wise about the situation. I actually had a little bit of a debate about this because with a friend of mine, because they were like, well, we have to keep going. We have to keep going hard. I'm like, look, I get the sentiment. Okay.
Yeah.
But that is also an emotional reaction, because we also have to consider elections and midterms. Whether you like it or not, those are things that you have to consider. And at the end of the day, if we lose the midterms, if we let people be brainwashed into thinking that this is the worst thing that could ever happen and completely unjustified, and they make an emotional about face, and we lose the House or the Senate, or heaven forbid both, then that's it. All of this is over. That's how this all comes to an end abruptly. Okay. Yeah. And then that also either we're going to be at a complete standstill, or it's going to empower progressives, because right now, don't even tell me that there is a moderate Democrat right now. Abigail Spanberger, by the way. Okay. Let me just mention that name.
As a Virginian, she ran on being a moderate, and there's nothing that's further from the truth. Like, the woman is a radical. And so this whole, like, we're common sense, this guy, Tellerico, is that his last name? He's doing the exact thing. It's all a playbook. I'm moderate. I'm a Christian. I care about people. And then they come in, they're going to eliminate the filibuster, pack the Supreme Court. They're going to overturn everything that Trump has done in the last 2 years. And people don't want to think about it, again, because it makes them queasy. But we have to think about these things, because it is uncomfortable truth that we have to, like you said, because I'm seeing some conservatives come out and they're like, all eyes every day. I want more eyes. Double down on more of this. I'm like, guys, that is not, nope, you're going to lose people doing that.
You can be emotional in both directions, okay?
Correct. That's what we're trying to say.
That's
calm down, everybody.
Yeah. Everybody, take a chill, okay?
Yeah.
And I actually am, obviously we have to see how this all pans out, but I am, because at this point, if we do, like, with this shift, with Homan, a lot of those talking points for the Democrats go away.
Yes.
Homan he served under Obama. He was
lauded
under
People
Obama.
loved him.
Yes. So that kind of talking point, and if anything, if the opposition continues, especially to the degree it's been at, then it's clearly not about Border Patrol or the horrendous tactics or how, this is fascism or whatever. It's about wanting illegal immigration because they care about their numbers. And so far, as far as I'm understood, we have deported enough to affect the numbers for Minnesota. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
Yeah. I'm hearing rumors, and who knows if it'll actually go through, but there's like this uprising of this nationwide ice out on Friday the 30th. Is that this Friday?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So they're trying to organize to get a nationwide. Now, I don't know how that's going to work when plenty of states are freezing. Like, I don't think you could get me to go walk in a protest right now they could be like imposing a national ban on Diet Coke, and I might not even leave my house. It's that cold. No one wants to go out in this.
I've been drinking out of my styrofoam.
Yeah, I see it. Couldn't get one if I wanted to right now, but we'll see if that materializes. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen.
And then the other thing that's coming up is the possibility of the Democrats trying to use DHS funding and lead us to a government shutdown. So,
yeah, well, too bad, because DHS ICE is already funded.
ICE is already funded.
Yeah.
And so the issue with, if they were...
It would be like FEMA will be impacted. It would be, travel, Homeland Security.
FAA.
Yes, that would be. So it's all of these other programs. It's not going to be ICE. They're so funded right now, they could operate for a couple of years and they'd be fine. It's the other stuff, and they're going to act like they're big, strong. They're like trying to defund
Well,
ICE. It's not
I
going to
mean,
defund
they
ICE.
deal with DHS, like they're trying to make it seem like this is immigration, but DHS has a ton of things under it. TSA,
Oh, yeah.
FEMA, like you said, Coast Guard, cybersecurity. Like
Yeah.
a DHS shutdown because of ICE when ICE operations won't be affected.
Yeah.
Is ridiculous.
Nope.
Like, it's insane.
But
So,
it's
not
all
that
going to be
anybody's
about
going to get,
messaging.
yeah, and well, that's what I was about to say. Not that anybody's going to get educated on that because, like, the message is going to be, we're opposing the fascism. And I'm like,
Yeah. No,
dude,
you're not.
no, you're not. That is
No,
not
you're
what is
not.
going on right now. So,
Come to Virginia and
Anyway.
actually fight fascism, okay? Because Abigail she is wielding that sword, okay? So come over here. Fight the fascism in my state.
Tell me how you really feel. So,
Oh, I shouldn't. I
Okay.
won't.
Okay. Well, save it because on Saturday, we will have our first official live, unfiltered at 11:30. We're going to be doing it at for the last Saturday of every month for paying subscribers. So if you want to join us, if you want to ask questions afterwards, we're going to be doing the live 11:30 Eastern this Saturday. We're just going to talk about our feelings, the things that we don't get time to talk about, and take your questions on a Saturday afternoon. So
It's going to be great.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Please consider becoming a paying supporter so you can join us. And anything else that you would like to add before I go ahead and wrap us up for today's episode?
No,
feelings?
just pray for the sun to come out. I really want, like, sushi. I want some, I don't know. I want to drive in a car somewhere.
It hasn't been that long.
It really hasn't, which is so funny, too, because I'm a homebody who gladly will stay at home and not leave my house for days on end and be totally content. It's the telling me I can't. So now I want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my
Yes, I
Diet Coke,
absolutely-
my palette of Diet Coke is dwindling. And I had a stern talking to my teen who also likes Diet Coke. I was like, look, lady, this has to last us until probably like Saturday. And we're getting low. And so keep your
You're
mitts
like,
off
back
of
off.
it. Yeah, seriously. I'm like, do you want to have a good day? You're stuck in the house with me. So just pray for the sun to come out, but it's not going to. So
I pray that the sun comes out, that the ice melts, that everybody's power gets back, and that we're all toasty warm with
there are people that are going
as
on
soon
like
as
3
possible.
days. That's not good.
can't
No
even
bueno.
imagine. So, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up for today's episode of Rivera and Reeves. If this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss another episode. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday. If you are a paying supporter, you'll get to join us this Saturday at 11:30 for a live on our Substack. And then if you can't join us during the live, don't worry. We're going to publish it, but that episode is exclusive to paying supporters, okay?
Yes.
So please click that link in the show notes and join us. In the meantime, I guess we will see how this all pans out, and we'll be back on Thursday. But here is a reminder that the media is trash and we have no tolerance for it. Okay, bye.
Bye.